Hi there. So I recorded a whole video and then a horrible thing happened. The screen capture didn't work. So I'm going to fake the screen capture, I think, and then try to edit it in, and hopefully that works out. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm not sure. Okay. Right. Well, enjoy. Yeah. Okay. We're hoping for this take. My camera ran out of memory the first time, and then I just couldn't speak after that. Okay, so I'm going to do a fantasy villain protagonist... No. I'm keeping it. Fantasy villain tier list from Reddit's 2017 Best Fantasy Villains... No. Keeping it. Reddit's Best Fantasy Books of All Time. Now this list is not going to include every series I've read, because books such as the Farseer trilogy, for example, have villains that I don't find that interesting. There's the White Prophets, but you could substitute almost any ordinary person in for their individual people. As an organization, they're quite terrifying, but this is individuals, not an organizational tier list, which could be interesting. I'd quite like it. Other series like the Malazan Book of the Fallen, the morals are a bit grayer, and it's hard to call anyone a straight-up villain, but I would love to do just a Malazan-centered tier list of characters from that world, because I find them fascinating. Other series like the Black Company have very cool villains, but their powers are really ill-defined, and I would be winging it placing them anywhere. Plus there's not many pictures of any of them. Someone like the Lady has the power of mind control, which... Can she beat anyone on this list? Maybe. I don't know. So, that's why I've only chosen characters I think are distinct entities in of themselves, and hopefully are interesting to talk about. We'll find out. So I'm starting with the Kefaya from the Kingkiller Chronicles. The Kefaya is an evil tree. It sounds ridiculous, but it's actually terrifying. It can see the future, but that's not all. It can see every possible future. And because it can see every possible future, it knows which of its actions will lead to which future. Meaning it will, anything that comes in contact to it, it will either kill, such as the butterflies that fly around it, reference to the butterfly effect probably, or people, it will talk to them, and it will give them true information for the most part that will lead them down a darker path. And the tree wants the worst world possible, for some reason. Absolutely evil, absolutely terrifying, makes people question free will. My brother hates the tree because he thinks if it can know every possible future, then there is no such thing as free will. I think the Calvinists had the same problem, where they said God is all-knowing, so he knows when you're born, or before you're born, whenever, if you're going to go to heaven or to hell. And a lot of people saw that as an argument against free will. However, I think it is more an argument for the incomprehensibility of omniscience. These beings already know what your free will is going to do. It's a weird concept. I'd love to go into it more, but I would like someone to talk to do it, so we'll leave that for now. And we'll move on to Ishamael, probably, however you pronounce his name. Now, Ishamael, I had troubles finding a picture of. This one is weird. He looks like the devil, which he kind of is. But I'd give that more to the dark one. Anyways, he is scary. He's the poor man's devil. He's the people that aren't in the know basically equate him to the devil, and for good reason. I talked in the previous video about how Rand is nearly a god, incredibly powerful. Ishamael is his evil counterpart, more or less. One of the other Forsaken, I can't remember his name, is almost a carbon copy of Rand. He's also a good fighter, good general, good wizard, best of his class and everything, and he hates Rand for being the one that's slightly better at him than everything. But Ishamael is sort of beyond all that. He's above it. He draws directly on the Dark One's power. He is very powerful. He might not be evil, so his position on this list is a little weird. He's more of a nihilist than evil. but he's cool. but I think if you want to destroy the world, that's evil enough for my purposes either way. Calor is a similar character. Not similar in his beliefs, but he might not be evil under certain interpretations. So, Ishamael, equivalent to Rand, almost a god, incredibly powerful, but he's not omniscient like the tree, so he's going to go a bit lower. This one's a bit silly. I couldn't find a picture of the Dark One? Is that his name? I don't even remember from the Wheel of Time. Shaitan. Blight Dude. He has a lot of names. He's like Odin of Wheel of Time. Well, he's not. That's Matt, but anyways. So I just got a picture of a black square, and I thought that represents his pitch black darkness, evil sort of thing quite well. So he is going to be above the Cathaya. The Dark One is going to be above the Cathaya because he is all evil. He is everything wrong in the world. Whereas the Cathaya tries to steer the world to that path, the Dark One is already there. He is everything bad. He is everything cruel. And his power is infinite and unstoppable. He is bound, so he can't make the world grant him more power, essentially. But he's the concept of evil, that puts him pretty high. In fact, it puts him so high, I think I might need a new tier for concepts. Which is... a lot of fantasy seems to deal with concepts instead of villains, which I don't actually find as interesting for the most part, but thankfully the Dark One does have the Forsaken to keep you interested, and the Forsaken are very cool. So going with concepts, I'm going to go with Lord Fowl next. I'm going to put Lord Fowl above the Dark One. Okay, so Lord Fowl is from Thomas Covenant, The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever, which is an amazing fantasy series. It's well known, but it's not as well known as it should be, in my opinion. But I understand it if people don't want to read it after reading the first book, because it is depressing. It is the most depressing fantasy series imaginable. Well, I'm sure there's more, but it's my maximum. I don't want to go much more depressing than that. He builds the most beautiful fantasy world ever, something equivalent to Tolkien, or Wheel of Time has an amazing world as well, but I would say that Stephen R. Donaldson's world is greater than the Malazan world. Yeah, Tolkien's the only comparison I can really think of, or someone like Chris Riddle and Paul Stewart who did Edge Chronicles. It's a totally unique world that is absolutely amazing and wonderful, and you'd love to explore it and meet all the cool characters, but the main character is a monster. He's horrible. He's a jerk. He doesn't care about anyone. He thinks he's in a dream, and he takes advantage of people. He doesn't want to help anyone. He's nasty. And he's not the villain. The villain is Lord Fowl. Lord Fowl, much like the Dark One, is the concept of all evil, but he's more than that. He is God's rival, like God of the universe. Which you could say the Dark One is as well. But Lord Fowl is so dangerous. This entire fantasy world was created just for him, to keep him trapped in it. He's like the Cathaya plus the Dark One. Whatever you do furthers his plans. There's a point in the second trilogy where he takes control of the main character, who's a woman at this point, like a different main character, that is, and he forces her to stick her head in the river and starts drowning her, and he says, I could have killed you or anyone at any point, but I don't want to. I want to let you destroy yourselves. And then he releases her. And they do. They do cause the end times on their own. Thomas Covenant says the only way to fight him is to run directly into his traps, because not going into his trap is part of the trap. He's unavoidable, he's undefeatable, he's all-powerful, and he's just toying with all of creation. He could win at any point, or he could... well, he could kill everyone at every point. That's not his win condition, but I don't want to spoil it. But he's unstoppable, basically. The only thing stopping him is that he's trapped in this fantasy world. Probably the most powerful villain in all of fantasy. And was good, while still being like a... it's very easy to write a powerful character, right? And it doesn't mean it's interesting. I could say this character... I invented a character when I was 6 called Stargator. He once fought the entire universe, plus himself, and won. Whoa, he's so powerful. He's like the quadruple S tier on this list. So what? Make the character interesting. So everyone on this list should also be interesting. And all future tier lists. Lord Fowl is interesting, and the most powerful, interesting character I have read. Concepts. Melkor. Alright, he's going to be near the Dark One. We're just going to... I'm going to have to think about it for a moment. Melkor is from... Melkor is from the Lord of the Rings. He's the god of evil. He is the concept of evil, the embodiment of evil. When Eru made the universe, he created all the gods, and he told the gods to sing creation into being. And so they sung a beautiful symphony. And Melkor, he made it a cacophony with his horrible singing. It was totally out of tune. And that out of tuneness was death, and that out of tuneness was evil. So he is responsible for death and evil in the Lord of the Rings universe. And he's responsible for killing the sun the first time round. He was the first Dark Lord. Sauron was one of his servants, and not even his greatest servant. He is weird because he's kind of mortal, but that might be just to interact with the mortal world. Here is a fight between him and... I forget his name. Fingolfin, maybe? Or Finnefi... something like that. And he wins. Melkor wins, but the little elf guy there gives him a good run for his money. Right there. Gives him a good run for his money. So he's not unstoppable, but he is a god, and... every time an orc dies or a dragon dies or something like that, he actually becomes stronger because he poured himself into the world to create all the evil creatures. He's unstoppable. He will eventually break free from his current chains, and Middle-earth will have to deal with him again. Thinking about him, though, I'm going to put him below the Cathaya, because the Cathaya hasn't been beaten and is considered a threat you can't deal with. You can stand against Melkor. That's probably part of Eru's design, and Melkor might be responsible for free will. Eru calls the shots, not him, whereas Lord Fowl is the one calling the shots in his universe. And to unharmoniously blend the universes, Lord Fowl would actually be a rival to Eru, as would probably the Dark One. Of course, Eru is all-powerful, so you can't do that. But if two universes have an all-powerful character, it's hard to make them mesh. So we'll work with what we can. Okay, let's do Lord of the Rings again, since we just did Melkor. We've got Sauron here. Okay, let's put him near Ishamael for now. Sauron, I chose the picture that didn't look like Melkor. I find the Percy Jackson interpretation a little strange of Sauron. He has Melkor's club, Grund, whatever it's called, and spiky armor and all of that. When he's a spirit of order, he should, I think he should look very like tidy and clean and everything. And maybe he got corrupted by Melkor and like, you know, put on spikes and like dressing up like his master or something. I haven't read the Silmarillion or anything like that. But I find his imagery weird. He looks terrifying, but it's weird. He does lose his power to shapeshift, which could be part of it. This is him as he looks in his Lord of Gifts shapeshifting form. So we're going to go by that power level as well, when he's at the height of his power. I'm going to have to think out loud for Sauron, because he's a tricky one. To start with, when the Fellowship breaks, Gandalf fights with Sauron to keep his view away from Frodo as Frodo runs away. This is Gandalf the White, and it wipes Gandalf the White out for a few weeks, I think 3 weeks or something. And this was a fight with Sauron for a couple hours. Gandalf the White, compared to almost any other character in Middle-earth, is invincible. Right there we have Sauron being an incredibly powerful being. And this is him weakened without the ring, injured without his shapeshifting powers, and his political influence is gone as well. He's a very manipulative person. When he loses against the King of Numenor, his armies are destroyed. He convinces the king to let him be his advisor, and then they attack the Undying Lands, and Eru is forced to sink all their ships. Or maybe it was Manwë. I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings buff. I love this lore, but I haven't read enough. Yeah, he's gonna go above Ishamael. Mishmamama. I think they're both incredibly powerful. They're both terrifying in their own right. But Sauron, in a straight-up power fight, might be a little weaker than Ishamael. Although I'm not sure about that. And he has so much more going for him. He has his shape-shifting, his deception, his knowledge. He is like a demigod, which that gives him a little foot up against a very powerful mortal. So yeah, I think Sauron's going to have to be above Ishamael. Okay, so we have the Lord of the Rings. Let's get through some of the lords. Let's do Lord Ruler. Alright, so Lord Ruler. If we go at the height of his power, it's a little unfair sometimes. He had the power to rewrite reality on a local scale at the height of his power. He's been steadily getting weaker since. But I'm going to go for his biggest... I think it's going to be the height of power for these characters, but it has to be a sustained height. You can't just have had a taste of godhood and then claim you're as powerful as a god. Lord Ruler has incredible regenerative abilities. He can heal from any wound. He's basically unkillable. He can control all metal. He can see the future. He can see possible futures to a lesser degree. He's very smart, very manipulative. He's an excellent fighter, although he doesn't need to be. But against someone like Ishamael, here's the fight scene, right? Lord Ruler walks on, all invincible-like, and Ishamael just blasts him with a wave of balefire, and Lord Ruler never existed, never got his powers in the first place. History is rewritten, and Lord Ruler is not a part of it. It's not even a contest. He has to go down here. Lord Voldemort. Lord Voldemort is the second most powerful wizard in Harry Potter. He's a master at magic. He treats it like a science, and he knows almost all the ins and outs of that science. He's like the Isaac Newton of magic. Wait, no, Isaac Newton. He's like the Isaac Newton of Harry Potter. Isaac Newton did research magic. He has almost mastery over death. That's his ultimate goal, and all he has to do is kill Harry, and he is basically immortal after that. Okay, Lord Voldemort. Had to cut it because I got confused. So he's the second strongest wizard in Harry Potter. He's a master of magic. He knows all it in and out better than anyone in a scientific terms. Harry and Dumbledore at least understand magic better as it really is. But on the science level, on the how to make spells and the exact components and everything, no one is better than Voldemort. He's almost immortal. If Harry dies, he would be. He's incredibly powerful, incredibly smart. He casts Avada Kedavra like it's nothing, and I think, given that all the other Dark Wizards don't, I think you need to be missing a bit of your soul, or, Voldemort can't love, and I think that might be part of the reason he can cast Avada Kedavra so lightly. You are killing someone, you are fully committing to a horrible action, and even a hardened killer might have qualms with that. Lord Voldemort doesn't. I think there's even more to it than that, because someone like Bellatrix doesn't even use crazy amounts of Avada Kedavra. She does, but not nearly to the extent of Voldemort. I think it takes a certain degree of power and commitment and evil and clinical detachment. He views it as another useful tool, like we might. We might think of Avada Kedavra as a more powerful gun. But I think it's more than that. I think you have to... Magic is metaphor-based. It's about the collective consciousness of humanity more than just you say words and out comes the spell, which is how Voldemort views it. But he's wrong about that, which is the whole point of Harry Potter. Magic is much more complicated, and it's much more based on what should be and who you are. The classic people like to talk about and who would win is cast a spell to make yourself invisible, cast a spell to teleport over and over again, and then cast Avada Kedavra every time you come out of the teleport. And you have an invisible teleporting death machine. It makes him incredibly dangerous. But I think if you had him fighting Lord Ruler, the closest person to him on this list, Lord Ruler could see all the shots coming. He would know where he was going to appear. He would know where he was. Any lesser spells or larger area of effect spells wouldn't instantly kill Lord Ruler, and you need to insta-kill. So Lord Ruler, I'm going to have to say, would win in a fight against Voldemort, even though Voldemort is incredibly dangerous. So for now, I'll keep him in A tier, but he's going to be lower than Lord Ruler. Kirigor is a necromancer. He has control over death. He can bring back people from the dead and tell them what to do. In the Sabriel universe, there's 9 levels of death. In the first 3 levels of death, they're called gates, so you'd be like from the first gate, second gate, third gate. A novice necromancer can probably walk around in the first 3 gates fairly safely. Undead can also move around between the gates, but the gates are incredibly dangerous and sap most of your power when you do so. However, your power can regenerate over time, and you can use your power to force yourself through the gates if you are incredibly powerful and dedicated and willing to kill all the other undead around you. So any dead from the 4th gate or further are considered incredibly dangerous, and 3rd gate and up is considered something more along the lines of... 3rd gate and above is considered something more along the lines of zombies and ghosts and wraiths and that sort of thing. Below the 4th gate you get much more terrifying undead, including among the greater dead there is Mordicant, which are men that move like dogs and can leap great distances and can wipe out entire armies on their own, small armies. But the greatest of the undead is Kirigor. He is also he's not just a necromancer, he's a greater undead that brought himself back to life from death. Meaning he is not only the greatest necromancer ever, he is the greatest undead ever, and he has control over things such as Mordicant and massive armies of undead. He's a threat to the entire Old Kingdom on his own, which is the place where the world takes place. Not only that, he can survive Astriel the Weeper, or the Sorrowful, whatever it's called, the 7th bell, which sends you directly through the 9th gate to death. He survived that, which is supposed to be impossible. And the reason he survived that is he's basically a lich in this universe. He's got a tomb that has his actual body in it that prevents him from slipping beyond death. It's like his flak drill. And the tomb is sealed with powerful free magic and charter magic, I believe, because it's not enough to be the greatest undead, the greatest necromancer. He also has to be one of the best charter mages, someone with the royal blood, which gives you a huge power boost for whatever reason in that world. And he's an amazing free mage, and free magicians are kind of like Pokemon masters. With demons, they capture demons and then they use those demons to capture greater demons and use those demons to capture even greater demons. And you can use demons as well to cast magic, and it's chaos, it's devouring, crazy chaos. Charter magic is order, but order to the extreme where it's dangerous, but it's also devastating. A novice but quite powerful charter mage, for instance, kills about 30 undead with a couple of spells when his cricket team's attacked. So the magic is pretty powerful. I wouldn't put him on a Ishmael level, but I would say that someone like Voldemort dreams he was Kirigor. Kirigor has succeeded at defeating death, whereas Voldemort has survived a couple death blows, but he's never in good condition afterwards, whereas if you kill Kirigor, he just walks right back out of death. Kirigor fought the Lord Ruler. Lord Ruler does have to be burning metal, I believe, to use his powers. I could be wrong on that. But I think his powers are finite, whereas Kirigor's don't have any limit. He just gets stronger, if anything, because things keep dying. So I'm going to put him... Lord Ruler, I believe, does have limits to his powers, where he needs metal to keep maintaining them. I could be wrong, but I think that's the case, and Kirigor has no limits on his powers. Now, someone like Ishamael, it's like I said against Vin, fireball everywhere. He might be able to disintegrate Kirigor. Then again, Kirigor doesn't need his body. He can keep coming back. So I might have to put Kirigor up on this tier. Now I'm not going to put him above Ishamael, but he is close, I think. And someone like Sauron as well. Like they're very powerful, but they are all fightable, all 3 of these. When you get up to here, these are forces of nature practically, and up here this is God. You can't even fight. This is forces of nature that you can you can, batten down the hatches against, but you don't stand a chance. These guys are defeatable. Barely. But they are defeatable. And once you get down to here, same thing, but a hero. You need a hero to defeat them, and no one else will do. And they're almost up here with the barely beatables, but the right hero could beat one of these guys. You just need a Dumbledore or a Harry or someone else to come along, or like Vin, Calcier. There might be someone that can stop Lord Ruler, although, he might even deserve to be up here, really. But these guys, one in a billion or less, like less than 1 in a billion. You need everyone working together to stop them, or a god of your own, or someone near in power. Okay, so with the king theme, we've got Calor. Right, Calor is the High King of the Malazan universe. So he isn't a wizard. He's an old man, a very, very, very old man, who's good with a sword. And he's weird. He's very weird. In the Malazan universe, where every character is unreasonably powerful, and in any one of these tier lists would end up near the top, at least in S tier, he doesn't have the superpowers and the strange abilities that most of the other characters have. And yet he's one of the most powerful characters in the series. He is the reason that everything has gone wrong. His civilization tried to kill him by summoning a god from a different universe in a, a meteor event, like the extinction of the dinosaurs. They thought the best thing to do would be to kill Calor and let life start again. It wiped out most of them, but he survived. Before that, I believe it was, or maybe after, the timeline is very hard to keep track of. It's a very complicated series to keep track of anything. He killed every single one of his people because the gods had united to stop him. And so he said, well, you can't save my empire now because I've killed everyone in my empire. And so the gods cursed him to be doomed to never succeeding again and never being a great ruler again. And in turn, he cursed the gods. And his curse is stuck. He's strange, because you would think he would struggle against someone like even Lord Ruler, but really, he is a force of nature. Like one of these characters up here. And I'm not really sure how to place that. In a straight up fight, he's a better fighter than Sauron. He's basically immune to magic. I think I have to put him up here, along with... He either has to be the lowest of the SS tier, or the highest of the S tier. And given that I said these are forces of nature, I think I will have to put him here. But he's weird. He's a very hard one to place. This is where he's going to have to be, though. Tashren is a threat to him, who is the greatest wizard in the Malazan Book of the Universe. So Ishamael, you could actually perhaps call that an equivalent, come to think of it. So maybe I'll put him... So let's see, the greatest wizard of all time could stop him. Well, that would put him below Voldemort in some ways. He is so weird to place. I think, like, magic-wise, he's... Like, if you're fighting a magic duel, he's down here, and in a hand-to-hand, he's down here. But then his curse and his character... And not because I like the character, but because his sheer willpower, and, well, he cursed the Elder Gods. There's something more to him that's hard to quantify in just a straight-up brawl. Now, he's a threat to the Elder Gods. That doesn't mean he can beat them, of course. And the Elder Gods would probably be around this S to SS tier. Sure, let's put him low S tier, and I don't know. He's a complicated one. Feel free to give your own interpretation. I can be swayed very easily on him, I think. Going back to Kirigor and his series, the Sabriel series, the Aberson series, we have Mogget. Now, looking up artwork of Mogget, first of all, holy cow, there's some talented artists out there doing Sabriel fan art. You'd think like the Wheel of Time, right, one of the biggest fantasy series ever, would have way more fan art. But Sabriel has more, I think, and higher quality. Wheel of Time, Sabriel seems to have more fan art. I think it's whenever a series really evokes someone's imagination. The Malazan Book of the Fallen also has tons of amazing artwork. The Sabriel series does as well, and Lord of the Rings has huge amounts, although the Thomas Covenant series doesn't, so maybe artists don't read it or something. But man, this is such a good picture of Mogget, and I love looking at them because they're all just adorable cats, which he is, but he's so evil you forget it when you read the books that he's just a cat. So he's not quite a cat. He is, I think the closest thing to put him, he's an elder god that has been bound by the Charter, which is almost a sentient being. It's almost the god of the universe. So Mogget is forced to serve the Aversin, but his power is incredibly reduced when he has the collar on that you can maybe see him wearing there. I don't think you can. Without the collar, he turns into a creature of pure fire. Without going into too many spoilers, I talked about the Pokemon Master thing of free magic that Kirigor can do. He's like the Mewtwo of that. He is on a different level from all the other free magic creatures, and more so. He's a bit more than even a free magic creature. He fights Kirigor, actually, and possibly kills him. There's a lot of debate about that, because he starts burning Kirigor from the inside out, but Kirigor also looks like he's quenching him. But I think Mogget was winning that. So Mogget I'm going to have to put up here. He's intangible, which gives him a huge advantage over anything, and he's got power roughly equivalent to one of the fundamental forces of the Old Kingdom's universe. So you could think of him almost as something like gravity or death or control or something like that. He is that powerful. So he definitely deserves... So he is a fundamental force, but the fundamental forces in the Old Kingdom tend to be weaker. So he's going to go down here. Okay, let's do Seth's son Valino, who I always mix up and call him Seth's son. This man is Kaladin's evil counterpart. He's a much better magic guy than Kaladin, probably about an equal fighter, and he's got a very scary sword, which, suffice to say, can cut through anything. Needs to go... Well, Lord Ruler, right? Lord Ruler, see the future, incredibly fast. Seth is good. He could survive for a while. But he wouldn't win. Now, against someone like Voldemort. Well, Voldemort's got a lot of spells, a lot of creativity. His fight against Dumbledore, for example, is one of my favorite scenes in the entire series, where he creates like the serpent and Dumbledore tries to drown him and he disappears. And it's amazing, that whole fight scene. I don't think Seth could beat Voldemort. I'm going to put him down here. Seth is about as good as you can get, fighting-wise, in his universe and in many others. And probably a better fighter than anyone on this list, except maybe... Well, I think Calor's a better fighter, but it'd be close. It's weird, because he could almost beat Calor, you'd think, because he has control over gravity and other things. But he does have a very limited timer. He has to win very quickly, and Calor can hold out. If Calor does one thing well, it's survive. And Voldemort, you know, he's a master at his craft. He could recognize the limitations, probably, on Valino. And Lord Ruler would just survive long enough that there's not much Seth could do. Of course, his sword kills you if it cuts you, which is pretty terrifying. I don't know if that would work on Lord Ruler or not. It wouldn't work on Voldemort, obviously, or Kirigor, or Mogget. Might work on Ishmael, but I doubt it. I don't think the Dark One would let him die. Sauron wouldn't work. A lot of these characters are unkillable, which... Like, Calor is actually killable, I guess, but it doesn't seem like it. You're definitely seeing themes among fantasy villains. They tend to be more forces of nature, unkillable forces of nature than anything, or people that have somehow disregarded death or made death their servant, which I think is why necromancers are such common. It's like, you have mastery over death, you're the scariest thing imaginable. Although you think you would almost be a hero, which might be why Jesus resurrected people. Right, we have a Sandworm from Dune. So when Hagrid gets hit by stupefy spells, he ignores them. And even some much stronger spells only stagger him. So there is magic resistance in the Harry Potter universe. Giants are very hard to take down, for instance, as are dragons. I don't know if Avada Kedavra has that limitation or not. It doesn't permanently kill Fawkes, the Phoenix, so there's that. But I think if anything was supernaturally tough in a magical universe, it would be a Sandworm. These things are unkillable in their own universe. Their skin is like, you can't damage it. You don't fight a Sandworm. You run away or ride it if you're the main character, and that's about it. The biggest one, I believe, can swallow a city in its mouth or something, and later in the series, which I haven't read, there's some that get even bigger and tougher. So, could a single Avada Kedavra kill a Sandworm? Voldemort might say yes, because it's the killing curse, it has it on the tin. But magic is sort of, heart-based, gut-based, metaphor. I don't think it could. I don't think Voldemort could kill a Sandworm. Because a Sandworm represents more than an easy kill. And magic isn't just a logical input-output thing in the Harry Potter universe. Lord Ruler might actually be strong enough to hurt the Sandworm, but kill it? No. He wouldn't be able to even figure out what made it die. What made it die? Yes. Can we move it up to this tier? Calor, see, this is where it gets weird. I think Calor could kill a Sandworm, but I don't know if Kirigor could. And this is where it gets really weird. Because Ishamael, probably. Sauron, he has these sort of creatures under his command. Maybe. Peter Jackson would like to think so. Mogget could burn away at it. It can't do anything against Mogget, and Mogget can hurt it. I think Ishamael eventually, he has control over the elements, basically, and if you hit it with enough things, eventually you realize, oh, a bit of water on that thing, that'll take care of it. So I think he could do it. Mogget, of course. Kirigor, I don't know if he could beat it. His magic is but it couldn't kill him, so I guess Kirigor's presence is death, so eventually it would just die. It might die 10 years earlier, so I guess he would win. And Calor, for spoiler reasons I won't say, but yeah, I'm pretty sure Calor could beat a Sandworm. So let's put it here, just above Lord Ruler. I like it though. It's cool mix to have my villain. They're not really villains. I kind of cheated with that one, but oh come on, it's so cool. Okay, and finally I have from the greatest fantasy series of all time. For some reason they forgot to add it to the list. I think maybe it was deleted by accident, or one of the mods pressed the wrong button, or people just forgot to vote on it because they thought everyone else would vote for it. But we've got Makuta from Bionicle. This is him combined with Trogadoom's pet demon bird thing, which I forget its name. Vlashki. It's been a while. I used to know everything Bionicle. It's slipping. Okay, Makuta is one of those characters you could say, oh well, it's easy to make someone all-powerful and scary. For example, an almost bad villain, right? Del Toro Quest. That guy, he's insanely powerful, but it doesn't feel earned. I think all these characters feel like they've earned their place in the hierarchy and on the list. Del Toro Quest bad guy, he's basically the Dark One from Wheel of Time, but less interesting and mean. So, yeah, he doesn't feel like he earns it super much. Makuta is the rival to Matanui, who is God. So that already, I think, puts him on like Sauron levels. He is also an amazing planner. Every defeat Makuta suffers is actually him furthering his plans. At the end of the Bionicle... Okay, so here's the thing about Bionicle. I have to defend it for a bit first. They're those toys that you can get, those little action figures. Glatorions don't count. You want like the Toa Mata, the Toa Nuva, the Toa Metru, they're okay. That sort of... I like the early generation myself. But the entire books are great. Because the writer they got to sell their toys took his job way too seriously and actually wrote an epic. It's really impressive. They're actually quite good. Like, they're for kids, but they're good for kids. But they're good. Like not Darth Nick's good, but you know, Kierkegaard's for kids as well. I think Darth Nix is actually the best kids writer, but Greg Farshley, he's up there. They're interesting stories. They're not just like meh fighting. They have motivations. They have a story. They have discoveries. They are bionic. They are like They're bionic, but cyborgs. They're Bionicles. Yeah, and they have a whole lore. They have a whole religion. They have a system of magic, almost science. Bionicles is almost sci-fi. It's really good. It's weird, but this guy took his job way too seriously. After Bionicles was discontinued, he continued writing stories. He continued writing the comics. He wanted to give everyone a satisfying ending, and it's pretty good. But at the very end, Makuta wins. You don't see that very often, that the villain overthrows God. He's actually kind of like a Melkor, like god of evil, but there's evil without him, there's free will. So he's more like just a very powerful character in a world with good and evil. Sauron's power is really ill-defined. You know he's powerful, but it's hard to say how much. Gandalf's is a bit better, and you know Sauron is way more powerful than Gandalf. And I think Gandalf could actually beat Makuta. So I'm going to put Makuta below Sauron. Right, so some research later. Makuta can see evil in people. He can make them feel anger and fear. He can manipulate shadows and shapeshift. He is also a massive robot. So in a straight-up fight, Makuta is going to get beaten probably even by Mogget, but maybe not, so he would be right around here, I think. But Makuta, as I said, every failure is part of his plans, which puts him more in the Kthea category, although not as omniscient. So, long run, I think he has to come up here, play with big boys. And yeah, Melkor, being the god of evil, is probably going to be a bit more dangerous than the person that's just very good at being evil. But he's up here with the forces of nature. Makuta always comes back. Makuta always has another plan. His plans within plans go forever. Yeah, that's where Makuta's gonna go. And that is my fantasy villain fight. Thanks for watching.